Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a sci-fi drama movie called Uglies. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie begins in a utopian future where most of the population lives in a perfect society. For centuries prior, humans exhausted Earth's natural resources, which led to chaos and war. This forced the top scientists into creating genetically modified orchids that acted as the new source of energy. However, fueled by the differences in their appearances, humans still waged war amongst each other. The scientists eventually came up with one final solution, named the transformation. When they turn 16, every person has to go through a life-changing operation that transforms them into their most perfect self. These flawless people are known as pretties and live in the perfectly curated city. Those who are yet to go through the procedure are called uglies and stay in the dormitories in an area named Uglyville. Creative. Among the uglies is a young girl named Tally and her best friend Paris. She'll be turning 16 in 3 months, while Paris is scheduled to get his transformation the next day. It is then revealed that the duo have similar scars on their palms that they got during a childhood accident. On the eve of Paris's transformation, they promise each other not to let the doctors erase the scars. The next day, during assembly, Tally overhears some students discussing the smoke. It is a mysterious place outside the city, led by an enigmatic man named David. It is said to be a haven for people who don't want to undergo transformation. However, except a handful of students, including a girl named Shay, most think that the smoke is simply an urban myth. Soon afterwards, a hologram of the governor of the city, Miss Cable, appears on the stage. She calls on the people who turn 16 to be taken for the transformation. Tally then bids Paris goodbye, and the two vow to meet each other at their regular hangout, the Bridge, in 1 month. But as the days pass, the limits of their friendship are tested. She receives no messages from Paris despite texting him every day. A month passes by, and the day that they promised to meet each other finally arrives. Tally sneaks out of her dorm and makes it to the bridge. She waits for several minutes, but Paris is nowhere to be seen. Getting worried, she climbs the lower section of the bridge and heads towards the city. Tally soon reaches the section where a party for the new pretties is taking place. She sneaks around the bushes when suddenly a partygoer drops a mask near her. Tally grabs it, and as soon as she puts it on, a hologram changes her simple uniform into a fancy dress. She then enters the glamorous party and eventually finds Paris. To her utter surprise, he looks completely different and doesn't even recognize her. Tally then takes off her mask and asks why he didn't come to the bridge, but Paris coldly answers that things have changed now.
I'm a Chad, Tally.
And that he was unsure whether he could relate to her anymore. Upon hearing this, Tally is shocked, but she becomes even more upset when she notices that his scar is gone. At that moment, a security drone detects her presence, and Tally is forced to run away from the incoming guards. But she only gets as far as the bridge when another security drone finds her. Thankfully, Shay appears out of nowhere, pulls Tally on her hoverboard, and flies off to the dormitory's back lawn. In the aftermath of this incident, the two girls begin to develop a deep friendship and even learn that they share a birthday. It is also revealed that Shay isn't all that excited about the transformation. As days pass, the duo keeps hanging together, and Tally continues to learn how to use the hoverboard. She eventually learns to fly it quite well, and the girls use them on crazy ramps for fun. On the eve of their birthday, Shay rather curiously starts talking about the smoke. She has been acting weirdly for the past few days, and even forces Tally to accompany her to the edge of the city. There, the two girls cross the border and make it to the ruins of an old town. The place is littered with objects of the distant past, like rusty roller coasters. Next, Shay takes her to an abandoned building and finally reveals what's in her mind. She claims that the smoke is real, and David will soon arrive to pick her up. Shay refuses to undergo transformation and claims she'll leave the city forever. Upon hearing this, a stunned Tally begs her not to leave the good life behind for some myth, but Shay has already made up her mind and hands her friend a map to the outskirts of the smoke. She then heads deep into the ruins on her hoverboard, leaving behind a distraught Tally. The next day, on Tally's birthday, she is finally called into the clinic for her transformation. However, before she can enter the surgical room, a guard arrives and takes her away to Miss Cable's office. The governor then calmly explains that that Shay has been missing since last night. Tally claims that she doesn't know anything about it, but Cable can see her vitals on a screen, which clearly indicates that the girl is lying. This annoys Cable, and she announces that Tally's surgery is postponed until she decides to cooperate. That night, Tally gets a surprise visit from Paris, who sneaks into her dorm. She hugs her old friend and explains everything about Shay. Paris is intrigued by the information, so he suggests that she should tell Cable whatever she knows. This way, she can finally get her surgery and live among other pretties. The next day, Tally is once again taken to the governor's office, and she comes clean about everything. Cable is impressed by the girl's honesty, so she decides to reveal a top secret. She explains that David is developing a weapon to attack the city and destroy everything they have built. Therefore, she assigns Tally with the task of infiltrating the smoke. Cable promises that if she is successful, she'll get the surgery. Tally is then given a necklace that she must activate when she finds the weapon's location. In the next scene, Tally follows Shay's map and reaches the old roller coaster. She then rides her hoverboard over it for a few miles until she comes to an abandoned train track. For the next few days, she survives in the wild and admires nature like never before. Eventually, the train track suddenly ends at the edge of a huge chasm. The map says to travel across it, and so she hops on her hoverboard. After a death-defying jump across the chasm, yeah! Tally lands in a field of orchids. She then lays down and falls asleep as the map instructs her to wait there for the night. Meanwhile, Cable summons Paris to her office and coerces him to undergo yet another surgery. She promises to make him more special and give him extraordinary body enhancements. On the other hand, Tally is jolted awake at night as there's smoke everywhere. She then discovers that the field around her is on fire and doesn't know what to do. At this moment, a mysterious person picks her up and yanks her away. The person is none other than David, who immediately scans Tally and her things for trackers. He finds one inside the hoverboard and throws it in the fire. The scanner, however, cannot pick up the tracker in her necklace. At the same time, Cable's men receive an alert about the tracker being removed. This prompts the governor to send a few specialized, enhanced soldiers to search the area. Elsewhere, David and Tally make it to a smoke outpost, where the latter is reunited with her friend. Shay is super excited to see her, but one of the other members of the camp, Croy, is suspicious of the newcomer. The next day, David reveals that their group starts fires on purpose to burn the orchids. They believe these genetically modified flowers are toxic and destroy any place they're planted in. Tally is still skeptical, so David decides to show her the reality firsthand. The group then gets into an old military helicopter and takes off. From high above, Tally can see the area where orchids used to grow, which is nothing but arid desert. This makes her realize that the guys are actually telling the truth. Shay then proceeds to burn down as many orchids as possible, but suddenly, Croy detects two enemy trackers approaching the area. David lowers the helicopter to hide in the smoke, but this causes Shay to lose her footing and fall. Since Cable's scouts are getting closer, Tally throws a rope down the helicopter and uses it to slide to the ground below. She somehow reaches Shay and pulls her away from danger. The girls then hold on to the rope, and David manages to pull them up right before they are caught. The following day, Tally is blindfolded and finally taken to the main settlement of Smoke. It contains a whole community that is thriving in nature through farming and bartering. Even old people must work, and there's no money, so things are shared among everyone. Most importantly, everyone is there by choice, and they don't have weapons because they're pacifists. Days pass by, and Tally starts getting comfortable among the community. She uses manual tools to help with the farm work, tastes spicy food for the first time, shits hot fire that same night, and shares the dances around the fire. One evening, David teaches her how to use a hunting crossbow, and they enjoy their time together. It is evident that the two have started liking each other. Later, a Smoke member comes back from the orchid with several wounds. She anxiously says the scouts are still around, and that they are stronger than normal. This shocks the entire camp, and it becomes clear to them that Cable is trying to wipe out their entire existence. A few days later, Tally goes on a walk with David once more. She is aware of her deal with Cable and tries to learn about David in detail. She tells him that she has heard rumors of a weapon of mass destruction that is being built to destroy the city. Amused by this, David takes her somewhere far away from the camp. The duo soon reaches a cabin where his parents, Az and Maddie, reside. Turns out they are cosmetic surgeons who once used to work for the government, alongside Governor Cable. As time went by, they got suspicious of a few tests and started to investigate the matter. They eventually found out that the physical changes in the transformation were just a cover for a larger scandal. The government altered people's brains too, making people dumber and slow by giving them a fake sense of happiness. This was all done so that the state could easily keep them under control. It is also revealed that the people working for the state, like doctors, were given a cure so they could think clearly while working. This is why David's parents are still sane like normal humans. When they learnt of the atrocities, they fled the city and arrived in this forest. The old couple reveals that they have been looking for a way to recreate the cure ever since. They have made a base serum for it, but lack the final synthetic component that can be found only in the city. Tally now finally sees the truth, which breaks her illusion of being pretty. That night, back at the smoke, she throws her necklace into the fire. She also tries telling David that she's done terrible things, but he doesn't care because she's a new person now. In the heat of the moment, the two of them end up sharing a kiss. But unbeknownst to them, the tracker in the necklace comes to life due to the fire, and it immediately alerts Cable of the smoke's location. The next morning, all hell breaks loose as the large city aircrafts arrive at the smoke and open fire. Scouts then drop from the aircrafts and begin rounding up all the rebels. They're too overpowered and end up capturing most of the smokes, including Shay. Meanwhile, Tally and David manage to evade the scouts and find a hiding spot nearby. She then watches on as Paris helps to subdue the prisoners. Az and Maddie are also captured, and soon enough, Governor Cable arrives at the camp. She threatens her old colleagues and demands to know where David is. The parents naturally refuse to give up their son, prompting Cable to show her true dark side. She orders Paris to kill Az to send a message to the others. A horrified David tries to run out to stop him, but it's too late as Paris snaps the old man's neck. In the aftermath of this attack, Cable publicly lauds Tally for her work as a city agent. The members of Smoke are shocked upon hearing this and realize that they have been double-crossed. Meanwhile, as everyone else is distracted, Maddie quietly sneaks the base serum into David's pocket. Next, Cable announces that everyone who is captured will be forced to go through the transformation, but Tally has had enough, and she takes the opportunity to run away from there along with David. Later, when they reach a cave, Tally tries talking to David, but he angrily points a knife at her. He accuses her of betrayal and the reason behind his father's death. Tally apologizes for her actions and claims that before coming here, she had no idea the smokes were good. She then points out that she knows the city inside and out, so she can help him reach there. Following this, the duo decides to work together for the time being and travels all the way to the city. Tally sneaks into the dormitory and gathers the students who used to be close to Shay. She then introduces them to David and explains that the smoke is very much real. Soon, a bunch of rebellious teenagers write "The smoke lives" in the sky using their hoverboards.
Oh, yeah!
Meanwhile, David and Tally sneak into the building, which contains Governor Cable's office. They arrive at a locked door, which is suddenly opened from the inside by a pretty. But David manages to take him down, which allows Tally to take his electronic ring. As the alarms go off, the duo finds the prison cell and uses the ring to free everyone. But Shay is nowhere to be seen, as it turns out that she has been taken to the surgery room. Next, David, Tally, and Maddie rush to the surgical room, but it's too late as Shay has already been transformed into a pretty. Their problems get even worse as Cable and Paris arrive with several scouts. They are now outnumbered and forced to get into the transformation machines. The governor is on the cusp of ending the rebellion once and for all, but before the needles can start cutting, the Smoke's helicopter appears outside, and Croy opens fire with his flamethrower. The blistering heat breaks the transformation machines, and the operation stops. This allows the trio to come out, while Cable and Paris are forced to flee the room. Maddie then searches the room, and finally gets the synthetic component for the cure. The group doesn't get too far though, as Paris corners them on the roof. Like a true pacifist, Tally tries to end the conflict by talking to her best friend. She brings up some of their memories, which seems to have an effect on him, but David is still not over the fact that Paris killed his father, so he attacks him and an intense struggle ensues. Tally is eventually forced to use her hoverboard to knock Paris down.
So, sup, bruh?
Unfortunately, this causes him to roll over the edge of the roof and fall into a waterfall below. The group finally escapes the city and makes it to the abandoned ruins on its outskirts, but they know that it is only a matter of time before Cable's men find them. Meanwhile, Maddie reveals that she has managed to save both the base serum and the synthetic substance, but she will need time to create a cure to test it out. Upon hearing this, Tally comes up with one final plan. She volunteers to undergo the transformation so that Maddie can test the cure on her. She swears that she won't let being change her drive for justice. The scene then shifts to the future, where a Tally enters her perfectly curated room in the city, but as the movie ends, the camera pans to her palm, and her childhood scar can still be seen on it.
Bruh.
Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.